I grew up in the church. I believed to accepted Christ when I was 5 years old, so 1986. After that, we'll make it short, but my parents separated in my teens. I went through a phase in my life where I was rededicating my life multiple times. It seemed like a yearly summer camp event where I would dirty my life and then come back in the summer and rededicate and have a clean slate to dirty again. And then in my 20s, I basically just tuned out God. That's short and simple. I tuned out God. I heard Him, but I just turned up the volume. Ended up going to Dallas Baptist University. After that, I met my wife, got married, and this whole time I still believed I was a Christian. But if you were able to see my life, I didn't live a Christian life. In fact, it was the farthest thing from a Christian. If anything, it was bipolar, because what I had done is I had this stronghold, this sin in my life, 20 years, that just had a grip on me. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, how hard I fought, there's nothing I could do to have victory over that sin. And I just came to a point where I'm 32 now. I'm just broken. I'm done. I'm tired of living with this sin, this lie. And the problem with this lie was that no one else in my life knew. It was just completely secret. And so I got to the point where I was laying in my rack one night. I had to sleep where I work. I'm just like, man, I got to get this out. This is eating me alive. This is going to destroy me. I'd rather die than continue on living this lie. So then that's what I did. I confessed the sin. And then shortly after, I started attending Netcast. You were speaking on the Holy Spirit and how sometimes we stiff on the Holy Spirit, and I felt the Holy Spirit just talking to me. I got to talk to my wife. I gotta put this out there. And so I almost ran out of church. It was just so strong. I just wanted to run out of church. Tell her what had been going on in my life, and luckily I did. And then my father, who's been a real spiritual influence in my life, recommended a series called Foundations of Freedom through a church called Gateway, and I started going through that. And in that process, they talked about, if you had any death in your heart, to just ask God to crucify that death so that He can replace it with His life. And so on September 23rd, about 10 p.m., that's what I did. I asked God to crucify the death in my life so that I could have His life. And when that happened, I just felt this huge thing overcome me. It was powerful. It was even emotional. I was in my rack crying at 10 p.m. at night for no reason. And then I had a series of questions that popped in my head, and those were, was I really saved? Is it possible to be partially saved? Which I think I was talking about rededication. And then, if I wasn't saved, how many people do I know that are in the church that believe they're to be saved but aren't saved? The next morning, I still had these questions, and I came across a sermon that said, it was actually titled, "Are You Born Again?" by Robert Morris, and it basically just spelled out pretty much my whole life, and that I wasn't saved because there had been no change, and since then I've been changed. It's insane. For the first time in my life, I feel empowered. I no longer have strongholds that tie me down. The addiction, the struggle that I mentioned, I didn't do anything to correct it. It just went away, and that's God. That's Jesus Christ in my life. That I finally came to a broken enough place to allow Him to have that power. He had the power. I finally allowed Him to use the power in my life.